Hey, Wes here, Airstream Wanderings. Thanks for joining me today. Not too long ago, I made this canteen. It's not finished yet. It needs to be painted and fired. And I was looking at it after it had dried for a few days. Turns out that it has a drying crack. Can you see right there? There's a seam right here where I put the spout in. Apparently did not seal it up good enough, and there's a little bit of a crack. My guess is that I could fire this, it would all be relatively solid, but that crack is not going to go away. I'm hesitant just to throw this in water and let it dissolve. What I want to do is see if I can seal it up or fix the crack. I think actually it's a long shot, but I'm going to try it anyway. What do I have to lose? So please come along. So here is the crack. You can't see it very well. It's not even a whole inch long, but it does go along with the seam on the inside. I don't think it's going to make any sense to try and fill the crack just as it is. I'm not going to be able to get any clay down into it. So I think I actually have to expand or make that crack larger before I can do anything with it. Well, one of the problems is going to be whatever I fill it with is going to be wet. And so that clay is going to shrink too. And so how will I ever be able to fully fill that crack? I really don't know. Okay, here is the crack. It goes along here. So I have a real fine-edged file, and I'm going to just see if that will work to begin with to open it up. I'll probably use a knife as well. And let's dig this out with a knife a little bit as well. So the key here, I think, is to get it big enough so clay will grab and fill it in, but not so big that my problem gets even worse. I've dug it out with the X-Acto knife quite a ways, but not all the way through the thickness of the clay. And I think that's as much as I'm going to go with. And so I just need to mix up some clay and get it in there and see what it looks like when it dries. Well, let's get this show on the road. I have right here, I don't know if you can really tell, a little bit of vinegar, which I'm going to use to kind of moisten the area. The big issue, I think, here is that the canteen is very dry. The clay that I put on it is wet. And in fact, just moistening this like this, it could cause that clay to swell and to crack even more. Kind of hard to tell what's going to happen, but the vinegar, I think, helps things to kind of get a little bit more sticky. So I'll let that sit a little bit. I've got some levigated clay here, and then this is actually some temper. I'm going to mix it, roughly a fair amount of temper. In my thought here, whether it's a good thought, I'm not sure, but is that the temper is less expansive, and that then I'll have less shrinkage issue when I fill this thing. Possible problem here is that I'll fill the crack, and it'll just shrink up. I'll have another crack, and it'll just kind of be never ending. Okay, let's go ahead and fill this thing in. Try and get it down in the hole as best I can. And then I will leave it a little bit proud, sticking out, so that I can just kind of sand it off, smooth it out. All right, let's just let that sit and see what happens. Come back in a few hours and see if it's kind of dried out. I would imagine that this dry clay will just suck the moisture right out of this the new patching clay real quick. It is day 2, everything is dried, and so let's take a closer look. Let's see if we can clean it up a little bit, see what it looks like. It's probably a little hard to tell, but there's a bit of an indentation right there, and then I sanded off the slip here, but it's not going to be a big problem because I'm going to paint all of this. The slip isn't really important. So I'm going to put just a small coating, I think, of clay, which is really the same as the slip material. Fine sandpaper. Just smooth it out a little bit. And I don't see a crack there anymore. It's not completely even, but probably this is a good time just to not mess with things too much. So next step is to go ahead and paint it and fire it and see what happens. And here is the canteen coming out of the fire, and on the back side is the small crack that I repaired, and everything looks good. Well, I forgot to take a picture of the pot after it was painted, but here it is after firing. Turned out good, and here on the back side is where the crack was, and I can't see a thing. It sealed up really good. So I'm pleased with that. I'm sure that there are limits to how big of a crack you can fill, but certainly with a small one, by digging it out, filling it in with clay that has a lot of temper in it, that all seems to work out okay. And any day that you have a pot that comes out of the fire without cracks in it is definitely a good day. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. And certainly appreciate the subscriptions and the comments. And until next time, this is Wes with Airstream Wanderings, wishing you health, happiness, peace, and love. Take care. Bye-bye.